Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's a recording of a class given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Śrila Prabhupada, in Los Angeles in 1973. It's Canto 1, Chapter 15, and Text 34. We ask that you increase the volume of your listening devices. Sometimes the level of recording is a little low. Without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna.
yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ, yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ, tanuṁ vijahāv, kaṇṭakaṁ kaṇṭakeneva, dvayaṁ cāpīśituḥ samam, yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ, tanuṁ vijahāv, kaṇṭakaṁ kaṇṭakeneva, dvayaṁ cāpīśituḥ samam, yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ, tanuṁ vijahāv, kaṇṭakaṁ kaṇṭakeneva, dvayaṁ cāpīśituḥ samam, yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ, yaya, that by which ajaḥ took away bhuvaha of the world, bhāraṁ burden, tanuṁ that, tanuṁ body, vijahāv relinquished, ajaḥ the unborn, kaṇṭakaṁ thorn, kaṇṭakeneva by the thorn, eva like that, dvayaṁ both, also, api although, ājaḥ controlling, samam equal. Translation: the Supreme Unborn, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies, and thus he relieved the burden of the world. This action was like picking out a thorn with a thorn, though both are the same to the controller.
So, Krishna's true business is going on in this material world. One is paritrāṇaṁ sadhūnaṁ and the other is vināṣāya ca duskrita. One business is to give protection to the law-abiding devotees. Devotee means who accept the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Controller and accept himself as subordinate. This is devotee. Devotee is not very... Actually, we are subordinate to the laws of nature, and the nature is being manipulated by the Lord. Therefore, ultimately, we are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. God is great, everyone knows it, but I am not great, I am subordinate. Acceptance of this philosophy means godly conscious or Krishna conscious. Very simple thing. There is no difficulty. But the demons are so rascal, they will not admit it. They are already under control. Prakriti kriyamanani guni karmani sarvasa. Under the control of the stringent laws of material nature, still foolishly that rascal demon is thinking that he is free. This is rascal. Just like an outlaw is thinking that he doesn't care for the government. Although he is put into jail, he is punished there, still he is declaring, no, I don't care for the government. Madness. So, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us to understand that Jiver Swarup hoy Nitya Krishna Das. A living entity is eternally servant of Krishna. That is his position. He can never become master. That's like there are 4 classes. The Shudra class, Parichajyatmakam Karyam Shudra Karma Svabhava. By nature, one who is Shudra, he cannot work very freely. That is not better. His better life is to remain subordinate. There's a woman, children. It is better for them to remain subordinate. To remain subordinate. It is practical. I have seen in our country and the Western countries, the women are given freedom. By such freedom, they are not happy. It is a fact. It is a fact. Therefore, Vedic system is that it is the father's duty when a girl is mature, before attaining puberty, she is handed over to a suitable boy. Please take charge of it. This girl, our marriage system is so long she was under my child. Now, this is the process. So the woman, by nature, they should remain subordinate. It does not mean because somebody is my subordinate, therefore I shall cut his throat or her throat. No. Just like sometimes the Christian philosophers say, the animals are given under the control of man, therefore they should be slaughtered. This is their philosophy. Control of man does not mean they should be taken care of. That is the law. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishyakarma Sabhavajam. The productive class, they should give protection to the cows. The cows are given under their protection. Not that because the cows are given under my protection, therefore I must open a slaughterhouse and kill them. Similarly, so children under the protection of father and mother, just like this child is sitting on the lap of he is comfortable. But if the father thinks he is under protection, therefore I shall cut throat. Now it is going on. The abortion means that the child is taking shelter of the mother's womb for protection, but now she is being killed. The time is so bad. You see? So the idea is, the subordinate does not mean he is in difficulty. No. Similarly, we are subordinate to God. That is a fact. Nobody can deny it. So remain under the protection of God. That is our natural state. That is our natural state. Eko jo bahunam vidudhati kāma. What is God? God, just like here is God, Krishna. What is the difference? No difference. He has got two hands, you have got two hands. He has got two legs, you have got two legs. He has got head, you have got head. So, from the bodily feature, man is made after God. There is no difference. But the difference is that he gives you protection and you are protected. Therefore you are worshipping God. This is the difference. Eko jo bahunam vidudhati kāman. Nitya nityana. This is the Vedic injunction. God is also nitya, eternal. We are also eternal. Na hannate hannamani sharire. We do not die. This is our condition life. We are changing our body because we have forgotten Krishna. There is no Krishna consciousness, but we are manufacturing different consciousness. And as we are manufacturing different consciousness, we are being contaminated by the particular quality of nature. They do not know that. How are we becoming contaminated? There are three modes of material nature. Satagun, Rajagun, Tamagun. Goodness, passion and ignorance. And we are according to the association. Just like here we can see somebody cannot live without smoking. It is practical. But none of our devotees smoke. So it is possible. Because a devotee is associating with the devotees, therefore he is acquiring the quality by association, contamination. This is a fact. If you go to a contaminated, diseased person, you are infected. We should be very careful. Dadati pratiginnati gujjama khati prichhati cha bhungte bhojate chaiva saravidhi priti lakkhanam. Intimate relation with somebody. So there is bhungte bhojayate. When you become intimate to certain friend, he gives to eat you something, you eat, and you also give him something to eat, he eats. But if they are of different quality, then by eating you are contaminated by his infection and he is contaminated by infection. That is practical, medical science. Medical science. If you eat the remnants of foodstuff of a tuberculosis patient, then you are attacked with tuberculosis. Or cholera patient, there are so many diseases. The eating is so important thing. And the germs, they come out from the mouth very easily. Very easily. Formerly there was politics. They are called Vishakanya, poison girl. The politician used to keep. I do not know whether nowadays the politician keep. But we find from Vedic literature, Vishakanya. Vishakanya means a girl from the childhood is injected poison little by little. So, when she is grown up, whole body is poisonous. So the politician used to engage such girl to kill his opponent politician. Very nice, beautiful girl, and will go, and as soon as the kissing will be there, he'll die. Just like poisonous. Yes, it is fact. It is not story. I read in medical journal. There was one, not medical journal, logic class. It is called some typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary. A girl whose name was Mary. Wherever she would go, all the people associating with her will be attacked with typhoid. Then the medical board examined her blood, that she is full of typhoid germs. So therefore wherever she goes, people become infected. These are medical facts. So therefore association is so important. Sangat sanjayate kama. According to association, we infect different qualities that they do not know. When nature's law is so particular, as soon as you infect by association is a particular type of quality, you have to suffer for that. That's what Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was asked by one devotee, grihastha devotee, householder, "Sir, what is the duty of a grihastha devotee?" Vaishnava. Devotee means Vaishnava. She immediately informed him, "Asatsanga tyagi Vaishnavacha." A Vaishnava's behavior should be that he should give up the company of asat, non-devotee. That is his first business. He should give up the company of non-devotee. This is first business. Because he will be infected. Therefore we insist our students that don't go out. Even you are discomfortable, you should tolerate. But you should not go out of the society, then you will surely fall down. Surely fall down. So if there is inconvenience, little, that is it advised in Bhagavad Gita, matra sparshastu kaunteya Śrī Kṛṣṇa sukha dukkhada. These, just like extreme cold or extreme heat, they are troublesome to the body, matra sparsha. On account of this material body, we feel extreme cold, extreme heat. But Krishna says, they come and go. It is not that winter season will remain forever, or the summer season will also remain. They may come and go. If it is intolerable, please tolerate. Please tolerate. Then it will be all right. I have repeatedly said, Narottam Das Thakur, Tadero charana sevi bhakta sane bhar. Why you have opened this society? I could have initiated and let him remain at his home. No. The society requires. So by association, we become good or bad. If you associate with goodness, then you acquire goodness quality. And if you associate with bad, passionate, ignorant, then you get that quality. So according to that quality, these Yaduvamsa, they were Krishna's descendants. Just like when a king comes, he comes with his associates. So when Krishna appeared, he had to marry so many wives because there is a stage to show Krishna's supreme authority. supremacy. So the demigods came down also from different planets to help Krishna. So these demigods became Krishna's family. Some of the women, the religions, they became Krishna's wife, and some of them became their sons. In this way, huge family of Krishna, Yadu dynasty. 1 crore, very big family. 16,108 wives. Each wife had sons, 10 sons, and each son had 10 sons. In this way, children, grandchildren, and the whole family, big dynasty, Yadu family. It is estimated 100,000, 100 times. So many. Now, Krishna wanted to leave this planet. So what will happen there? If they remain, although Krishna knew that they have come from different planets, but they knew that we are sons and grandsons and grandchildren of Krishna. They are very much puffed up. So, what is the difference between a demon and devotee? A demon is puffed up, that's all, falsely. That is demon. And a devotee is submissive, meek and mild. This is the difference. The demon says, go, there, my dear sir, we have got these books to understand Krishna, the Supreme Lord, so you kindly read this book, you will be benefited. What is God? Who is God? I am God. Well, this is demonism. And demigod or a devotee means, oh, here is a book, something about God, Krishna. All right, let me read it. And that is the difference. Asuri bhavamasrita. Asuri bhavamasrita means they don't care for God. That is the disease. Although they are under the stringent laws of God, still they don't care for God. So this Yadu dynasty, Krishna thought that in my absence they are powerful because they to assist me. To assist me means he had 2 missions. Paritrana sadhunam vinashaya cha duskita. They have killed so many demons. Everywhere they came out victorious because Krishna was there. Now, in the absence of Krishna, they would be puffed up, therefore they would be turned again into demons. I belong to Krishna's family. Just like in our country, Nityananda Vangsha. I belong to the Nityananda Prabhu. Exploiting people. The Mohammedans also. I belong to the family of Muhammad, Hazrat Muhammad. Caste has no family. He did not marry. Otherwise, somebody would have been very much puffed up. I am family of Christ. So, the material nature is such thing that as soon as you get little power, you become puffed up. That is demonic nature. That is demonic nature. So Krishna wanted to take them with him because they came to help Krishna, and after his departure, these demigods who turned into demons, that he did not like to see. Therefore, this Yadu dynasty was finished amongst themselves because there was no other person to kill the Yadu and any one of the Yadu dynasty. Therefore, this fratricidal war was manufactured and they died. Yayāharad bhuvo bhāraṁ tanuṁ vijahāv ajaḥ kaṇṭakaṁ kaṇṭakeneva. Kaṇṭakaṁ kaṇṭakeneva. Just like if you have got some thorn pricked in your leg, you take another thorn and get it out. This is the law of nature. One demon is killed by another demon. That is the keeping balance. There is war, we have experienced. One demonic nation has grown up very strong, so immediately another demonic nation declares war, or he declares war, both of them are finished. This is going on. So, read the part.
Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur suggested the rishis like Shonaka and others who were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya were not happy to hear about the Yadus dying in the madness of intoxication. To give them
move the leg.
To give them relief from this mental agony, Sutta Goswami assured them that the Lord caused the members of the Yadu dynasty to relinquish their bodies.
Yes, everyone will be sorry that how Krishna's descendants could fight amongst themselves and die like this. It was not very happy to think by other devotees. Therefore the explanation is given. Right?
By which they had to take away the burden of the world. The Lord and His eternal associates appeared on earth to help the administrative demigods in eradicating the burden of the world.
Yes, Jada Jada Dharma, the beginning of Krishna's appearance. You know that in the Krishna book, how Krishna appeared. There was an appeal by the earth, Mother Earth, that she is overburdened with demons. And it was unbearable for her what to do. So this petition was submitted to Vishnu by Brahma, and Vishnu replied that Krishna is coming and he will do the needful. This was the beginning. So, as soon as there Dada Dharmasya Glani, the planet becomes overburdened by the sinful demons. So they require to be moved and the burden lessened. That was the function of Krishna's coming. Whenever Krishna comes in different incarnation, there is need. Glani bhavati bharata. Jada jadahi dharmasya glani. Dharmasya glani means, we have explained several times, we have read in the Bhagavad Gita, glani means discrepancy. Discrepancy. And dharma means obedience to God. That is dharma. Religion does not mean anything else. You can manufacture so many formulas and theses. The real meaning is obedience to God. That is religion. Simple definition. If a man is obedient to God, it doesn't matter to which religion he belongs. He may be a Christian, he may be a Hindu, he may be Muslim. It doesn't matter. Religion means, this I have repeated, religion means the laws of God. There must be laws. God is the supreme, as the state laws are there. Now, so many affairs in the cosmic manifestation is going on. How they can think of that there is no law? There is law. The sun is rising exactly in time. The Pacific Ocean is exactly in its position. It is not coming even a few years beyond the area. Such a huge water, it can overflow immediately the whole Los Angeles city in a second. Well, why it is not coming? You are sure. We are walking by the beach. We are sure that the water cannot come here. By whose order? By whose law? But these rascals, they cannot understand. They are saying nature. They give an explanation, nature. But nature is dull. Nature, material nature is dull. We do not find anything, material nature, just like this is a material thing. But it is being manipulated by a living being. This iron or other metallic preparation, they have been turned into microphone by a living entity. Not that the matter has come automatically and combined together and it has become microphone. Where is that instance? Nature, material nature does not combine together. Therefore in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Jiva bhuto mahabaho jaidam dharjate jagat. He is dividing. Very nice, you read book. Krishna says there are two kinds of nature. Inferior nature and spiritual nature. The inferior nature is matter, bhumi rapana vayu, and superior nature is the living entity. Why superior living entity? Because the living entity can manipulate the material nature. So matter is manipulated by a living entity and it has become useful. A microphone. The common sense of that. So a living entity is not matter, is superior nature. We should understand that. So, everything, now, this superior nature, living entity, he has got mind, intelligence, that is also material. But under the direction of Krishna, the mind, intelligence, ego is working. And how it is working? As he wanted. He is giving simply permission. I want to, just like I want to manufacture something in chemical laboratory. My intense desire is how to make it successful. Then when Krishna sees that you are so much on a burst to do this, so Krishna gives him intelligence that you do like this. Then he becomes a scientist, discoverer. He cannot do it independently. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham ridisannivishta matta smriti jnanam apohananch. One man is committing mistake and one man is doing right. Why? Because within the heart there is Krishna. And Krishna is giving direction as he wanted. Actually, Krishna does not want you to do anything else except to become Krishna conscious. That is Krishna's desire. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam saranam bhaja. That is his desire. People say foolishly, what is the desire of God? And here is the desire of the openly. It is said that you give up all other occupation, simply take to this occupation, how to become a devotee. Manmana bhava bhakta. That is Krishna's desire. But we shall not do that thing. We shall do everything except that thing. That is our promise. Therefore we are suffering. That is demoniac. That is demoniac. Asuri bhava. Asuri bhava means disobedience to Krishna. Namang duskita nam murha prapaddante naradhama. Maya purita jnana asuri bhava masita. Asuri bhava is there. So, in order to save sometimes asuri bhava, that is increasing asuri bhava, so immediately there is death. So this law is going on, nature's law. Nature is not independent. Nature is working under the direction of the Lord. Maya dhakshena prakriti swayati sacharacharam. So everything is under the law, under the order of God. But he is not under anyone's order, anyone's guidance or anyone's order. That is God. That is the difference. This morning we are discussing that if everything has got cause, And then God has got also cause. Samam, yes. But that is the difference. If God also has got cause, then how he becomes God? He is one of us. God has no cause. Sarva karana karana. Ishara parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. Anadi Radhi Govinda. Sarva karana karana. Sarva karana karana. He is cause of all causes. Because he is Anadi, but he has no cause. Adi is the reason.
I work overnight.
This is to be understood.
Even like night time.
That is the difference between God and ourselves. Ego Bhuna, God is also two hands.
You don't want it now?
Yeah, I might do it. I'm fine.
Yeah, they're asking for Dharma. Let's say if you want to come.
But the mudhas, because God has got two hands,
If you want money, you can buy.
he is also like me. That is mudha.
Someone please mute Mona.
Because God comes as human being with two hands, two legs, one head, therefore he is one of the one. No. It is miscalculation. Just like in the hospital, there are so many patients lying down on the bed. And when the doctor comes, if the patient thinks, now he is also patient. How is that? He is not patient. He has come to treat patient.
Please.
Similarly, God may come like us, because otherwise he will not accept. He will be something. God never incarnates with 400 Vishnumurti. This will be something extraordinary. So he comes exactly like us, but he is not one of us. That is God consciousness, Krishna consciousness. God, really?
He therefore called for some of the confidential demigods to appear in the Yadu family and serve him in his great mission. After the mission was fulfilled, the demigods, by the will of the Lord, relinquished their corporeal bodies by fighting amongst themselves in the madness of intoxication. The demigods are accustomed to drinking soma rasa beverage, and therefore the drinking of wine...
Now, we can take one lesson. The intoxication is so bad that it had a bad effect in the family of God, Yadu dynasty. And what to speak of others. Intoxication is so bad. Go on.
Therefore the drinking of wine and intoxication are not unknown to them. Sometimes they were put into trouble for indulging in intoxication. Once the sons of Kuvera fell in the wrath of Narada for being intoxicated, but afterwards they regained their original forms by the grace of the Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa.
This is goodness. One may be intoxicated, when he comes to his senses that this is not good, then he is godly. That is the difference. But the demon cannot understand that. They continue. Just like our devotees. They are all godly because they had some bad habits. It doesn't matter. But they have given up. That is the difference between the demons and the devotee. A devotee understands what is what, and it does according to the direction of God. Therefore he is demigod. The demons will never agree. That is the difference. Yes?
For the Supreme Lord, both the asuras and the demigods are equal.
Yes. They are all of them are sons. Either one is demon or demigod. Both of them are sons of God. But what is the difference between, just like a father has got two sons or more sons. One son is very obedient to the father and the other son is not. That is the difference here. God has not made anyone demon or demigod. For God everyone is equal. Samam sarva bhuteshu name desasti na priya. Krishna says in the Bhagavad. I am equal to everyone, otherwise how is God? He is equal to everyone. but they are creating their own situation and becoming God and demon. So, in the human form of life, advanced consciousness, instead of becoming demon, we should become demigod. That is the fulfillment of human life. And if we remain demon, then this opportunity is missed. This human form of life is missed. All right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming on to here. Srila Prabhupada's lectures are always helpful in so many ways to elevate us in Krishna consciousness and also make us understand what life really is about. With the examples that were given, the Yadu dynasty, and Śrī Kṛṣṇa coming for two purposes, one for devotees, one for demons, and so many things were explained. I would also like to apologize for the interruption to the Prabhupada's lectures at the point. This is Mataji that usually does not come on at this time, and I myself was busy taking notes, so it didn't register to me that she was actually disturbing. So I apologize for that. Hare Krishna, this is the time now to devotees, for devotees to share their comments, ask questions, bring up their takeaways. We have a discussion about that. So please unmute yourself. If you can come on camera, that would be nice. And then, share what you picked up from this. Hare Krishna, I see you on. Please accept the humble basis. It's all glory to your Prabhupada. If you have some comments that you would like to make, that would be very nice. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Parikshit Prabhu.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept mine. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. I noticed I've been listening to Srila Prabhupada's lectures in the morning at Srimad Bhagavatam class. I've noticed that Srila Prabhupada generally didn't do a Mangalacharan before speaking. I mean, this is not about the subject of the class, but I know it's not nothing that's wrong with chanting the Mangalacharan, but it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada doesn't. There's just the chanting of the verse, and Pradyumna Prabhu reads the translation and parts of the purport, but Srila Prabhupada just speaks.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I'm sorry to interrupt. For purposes of better understanding, not everybody knows what Mangalacharan is. So
Mangalacharan means usually before the Mangalacharan, before the class, it's often the case that devotees chant various prayers. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam, to give respect to the spiritual master, etc., and the previous acharyas. So it's just interesting in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, at least the ones that we've listened to, the ones I usually listen to, I haven't heard that he did that in the morning. But in the evening, usually he did. So it's just a little tiny point, very tiny point.
Okay.
And
thank you for letting us know, Hare Krishna.
And I'm not saying you have to do that. We have to do that, but just, of course, it's always okay to chant prayers to the spiritual master and previous acharyas. But it's just interesting that Srila Prabhupada didn't in the morning. Then he spoke about typhoid Mary. That was interesting because about association, how serious it is. Because if you associate intimately with, he gave the example of non-devotees, then you get infected, just like someone with a disease like typhoid. You become easily infected with their qualities. So typhoid Mary was an Irish woman who came to the United States, and she got work as a cook in people's houses, especially rich people's houses. But then, because she was cooking their food, they turned up with typhoid, and many of them died. And so eventually, she was quarantined for the last 30 years of her life. She was quarantined. She couldn't associate with people, before she died. So I don't think we're going to be quarantining materialistic people. but it just emphasizes the importance of remaining careful in our associations, because it's easy to get deviated from Krishna consciousness. And part of that, Prabhupada was giving the example, just like because the family members of Krishna who were demigods, and Srila Prabhupada made it very clear, he said, the possibility would be that these demigods would become demons after he left because of that bad association. So that's pretty shocking. These are demigods who are involved in the universal management of Krishna. And if I remember correctly, maybe somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that in some place in the Srimad Bhagavatam or Krishna book, it says that the sons of Krishna had the same qualities as Krishna, and to a certain extent that they were, they had the same strength and abilities as Krishna. So even those people, those living entities, without Krishna's, direct presence, they can become overwhelmed and become from a devotee to a demon. What to speak of ourselves? And the process was that because of their power, they would become puffed up. And Prabhupada said, a demon is falsely proud, whereas a devotee is meek and mild. So those things stuck out to me. It was what to speak of, and then he gave examples of the Nityananda Vamsas, because they say that they're the family members of Nityananda, therefore, they're better than other people. And so they become demoniac. So we also, even though we take the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and the mercy of Srila Prabhupada is so wonderful and helps us be elevated, still doesn't mean that we necessarily we think ourselves better than others. But no, Lord Chaitanya emphasized Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishnana Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sadahari, that we have to practice not looking for praise for ourselves, but give respect to others and consider oneself pretty lower than the straw on the street. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. And as you were speaking, you brought a point that was quite important. The demigods are usually credited with good behavior. So if they were to come to the Yadu dynasty by instruction of Krishna and become powerful also, well, they're demigods after all. And now Krishna is leaving. Krishna is concerned that their power might turn into something based on something that would connect with pride and then make them become more of a hassle, though, to the earth, even though at first the aim was to assist Krishna in correcting things that were bad that Mother Bhumi was complaining about. But you begin to think that, but the demigod has that character, which is more the goodness. It's just, a devotee has the qualities of a demigod. Devotees are defined that way. So how come demigods in the Yadu dynasty will all of a sudden change like that? So that was a point to be kind of not only concerned with, but to ponder about. Just because they were a group together at the Yadu dynasty in Dwarka, and they were very powerful, they were Kshatriyas, then they would cause problems. Like my mind is telling me, but the demigods in their respective abodes are still a group in the heavenly planets. Why don't they cause trouble then? So all of these is kind of running through my mind. But what I'm thinking that's coming to me as an answer to that is Krishna ended his pastimes, and he wanted the demigods to also leave. And that's why things with Samba and all of that was set up, and the destruction by the curse from the sages, and of course Gandhari also getting mad at Krishna, blaming Krishna for losing her son, says that the Yadu dynasty would also be destroyed. All of those things may be a part, ultimately, of Krishna's plan, because he's the cause of all causes anyway.
Well, one one difference is that they're going back to the heavenly planets, and in the heavenly planets, there may not be as much bad association as in the Earth planet. That might be one factor also. You follow?
Mm-hmm. Well, then again, speaking about that, another point to support of what you're just saying, that in the heavenly planets, they have their own domain. Demigods have their planets. Demigods, so the control is there. Indra, the Svagaloka is controlled by Indra, and in different places. So they have control over residents who are there. So basically, if there's any puffed upness, that's kind of, for lack of a better word, taken care of by the position that they have. But in Dwarka, they were together as a group. And so that's a little different from when they are in their own planets. And so that might have contributed to the issue also. In other words, they have their own power with their own planets when they are back in the heavenly planets. And Dwarka was a different situation. It was just part of a community. I'm thinking that way. Anyway, any other comments? We have a few minutes. I'll just share some of my takeaways.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Please accept my humble obeisance to
If that was going to the Prabhupada, yeah.
Śrī Prabhupada, as usual, gives very powerful classes that makes us really think. And one of the questions that I have, and I would like to open up for discussion, is the asatyanga, tyaga, the cutting off of association. And Śrī Prabhupada gave the example of Vishkanya. He gave the example of, typhoid Mary and all that. Then I have a question, and the question is this. Even within the devotee community or ISKCON community, we come across situations where people in the name of Krishna consciousness or using the name of Krishna consciousness or ISKCON or devotee, they may be chanting their rounds. I use the word maybe, okay? They may be chanting their rounds. I don't know. I hope they are. But they are not speaking. They are not, they are really like blaspheming devotees and ISKCON temples and stuff like that. So what should our position be? Should we asatyaga? Because that's my question. I mean, it's clear, at least in my mind, that, when it comes to non-devotees, who are not practicing devotees, not Vaishnavas, because they can influence us. But what about within our community when we have such people where they ask, where, they are influencing other devotees against, temples and preachings and leaders and so on and so forth. So how do we do that? Should we continue associating with them in the name of chanting of the holy name, or should we just keep our arm length and not get involved?
I guess Prabhu, maybe you can shed some light on this.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, I mean, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport, a couple of purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that within the Hare Krishna movement, there are many envious persons. He says, I think he uses the word jealous, but it's very similar. And he says that one should neglect them. That's what he says. On the other hand, if someone has there's a difference between criticism with the purpose of improvement or observation and for the purpose of just negatively influencing people. There in law, there's the idea of slander, libel and slander.
Yeah.
And one of the defenses, if someone's accused of libel or slander, is Well, it's not libel or slander if the thing being said or the accusation is true. So on one hand, yes, we have to be aware that there are things we need to improve. And on the other hand, it's not to point out certain deficiencies. And I'm not recommending that should be done wholesale, or I don't know exactly who you're referring to, maybe, or I don't know. But there's a certain intention that persons may have in terms of criticism, which is really a negative and a very detrimental thing. So one should be very careful about being able to differentiate between the two things, if that makes sense. You understand the point?
Absolutely, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm talking, I'm talking about current situation where I do know of a good number of devotees within the tri-state. I'll just leave it at that, as far as New Jersey, to be honest. But Prabhu, when you mention neglect, because these, and I'll be honest with you, it is completely based on envy. It is completely based on envy, jealousy, whatever you want to call it. But it's to the point where, it is influencing young. Well, when I say young, I mean, innocent devotees who really, really want to grow, but you have this bunch of, roadside people, just lack a better word, sitting. But when you mention the word Prabhu, when Prabhupada says neglect, to me, neglect means pay a blind eye, a deaf ear and walk by. Is that what neglect is, Prabhu, or do we still hang out with them?
Yeah, that's neglect. When there's so many stories of devotees, in their personal recollections of their interactions with Srila Prabhupada. I'll give one example, and he gives this example himself, so I don't think it'll be embarrassing for him. But Brahmatirtha Prabhu, who was in the Bhaktivedanta Institute, he was the person who was the hearer of the Perfect Question, Perfect Answers book. So he met Srila Prabhupada in India, in Calcutta, and had that discussion with Srila Prabhupada, and he took up Krishna consciousness a little bit slowly at first, but then he became more involved over time. And Prabhupada interacted with him and was very cordial with him. And then when Srila Prabhupada came to New York in 1976, he came to the New York temple, Brahmatirtha, and he wanted to see Srila Prabhupada, and he thought, oh, Prabhupada is going to be very happy to see me. I guess so. I'm a very important person, and blah blah blah. And Prabhupada just didn't even look at him. And he took it that Prabhupada understood his pride, and that way was in some way neglecting him. Do you follow? Yeah. So I mean, and that's just one small instance, but there are many, many instances of that, of how Srila Prabhupada, when a devotee, I mean, in their own, these are in their own words, they say that they were manifesting false pride. Srila Prabhupada just kind of ignored them, even though they wanted attention. He ignored them, and they concluded it was on the basis of their being falsely proud. I thought that's very, very interesting, and that's also so as Srila Prabhupada is a reflection of how Krishna interacts with his devotees. So if Srila Prabhupada is going to be ignoring us, then Krishna is also going to ignore us because of our false pride. So that's how I take. That's how avoiding, ignoring. To a certain as much as you can, without being completely offensive or something. But I don't
Prabhu,
like.
thank you
There's
so
some.
much
There's some.
for explaining the word neglect. I appreciated that so much.
There's some devotees who, I mean, they've done lots of service and stuff, but their business is just to criticize everybody. You name it. and I try to avoid interacting with them because it's painful. I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't, and I know that's what's going to happen. So then, okay, over time, they get the message that that's not something I want to engage in. One thing, Vaisheshī Prabhu, my god brother, he's I think he's a very elevated, incredibly elevated devotee, and he requests his disciples when they get initiated. He says, and not criticize among the four. He has them recite the four regulative principles and agree to chant 16 rounds, and not criticize, blaspheme devotees. That's part of his system when they get initiated. So it's a dangerous thing. And that's not to say that they, certainly in ISKCON, we've got lots of things we have to work on to improve. No question about it. There's no question about it. But in the spirit of helping, a spirit of wanting to contribute, and not in the spirit of wanting to tear down. Because in the material world, the whole material world is based on envy. That's why we're here. And that keeps us within the material world. Everybody's envious of everybody else. Men are envious of women. Women are envious of men. Children are envious of parents. Parents are envious of children. Everybody, blacks and whites, are envious of each other. Mexicans and Americans, Indians and Americans, everybody's envious of everybody. And so the more that's in a spiritual society, that tendency can be reduced nicely. That's the best thing.
Thank you very much. Especially when you mentioned that Vaisheshī Prabhu was actually now adding, as a part of his initiation with new devotees, that they should not blaspheme or criticize other devotees. So helpful. Bhakti True Swami was also having devotees add one more, apart from the 16 rounds and the regulative principles, that they shouldn't lead the society.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's all
interesting. In that same purport, one of the next purports, Prabhupada said, even though you might think that the Hare Krishna movement is full of pseudo devotees, he says it's full of pseudo devotees. Then Prabhupada says, still do not leave the society. That's really something. Yeah. Bhakti Chura Maharaj.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience, dear Krishna Prabhu. Now, I know your hand is up, so please go ahead. Accept my humble obeisances. Go ahead to Śrīla Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Śrīla Prabhupada. Thank you for this very important and very practical discussion. Few things I would like to share from today's class is, first of all, again and again, I'm sure everyone feels that if we are not listening to Srila Prabhupada regularly, there is no way we can have a clear understanding of devotional science. There is no way. And that's why I think he is entitled as Bhaktivedanta Swami and also Jagat Guru. So clear, teachings. Wonderful. So that's one thing. Number two, I think I wrote my notes. About the importance of association. So it was really, really very pleasing to hear from Srila Prabhupada directly the importance of this association and the discussion with all of you senior devotees, the practical part of it, how to avoid bad association even in the Krishna conscious communities, because I do see a lot of devotees, they just get stuck and they also feel helpless because even after many years of coming to temple or Bhakti Vriksha programs, they just get stuck. They are unable to progress because we do not want to come out of our comfort zone and we keep associating with outside or even, the criticizing devotees. So, and also the third point, which Vishnugada Prabhu also brought up, is how even if we are we have discomfort in the ISKCON society, still Srila Prabhupada is strongly recommending never go out. So when we try to share this with others, sometimes it comes out in a way whether we are stopping devotees to go out. But there is a reason Srila Prabhupada is saying that, because it's not safe, where we might get trapped. And more than anywhere else, we are better off in staying in within the society, because first of all there is nothing that is lacking, number one, and number two, yes, definitely there are some issues, some problems, but if we go outside, the scale of those problems, those issues is much larger, and there is very good chance of getting lost, getting diverted, and getting totally distracted. And Srila Prabhupada also says in some purports, we might get kidnapped by other paths, which is not going to helpful in our devotional life. So just wanted to share those points. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, very, very important. Yeah. The only thing I would like to add to it is the material world, and the reason Krishna comes for devotees, he comes with his pure devotees for his pastimes. But other devotees, we are learning, we are conditioned souls. And ISKCON is for conditioned souls to go through purification. And conditioned souls they may have a higher nature, but they have a lower nature also. So why devotees would not think that the lower nature can come out when a person is not totally pure, that's beyond my understanding. It definitely will come out. When a person is some percentage of his good, percentage of his bad in the society, yeah, the good part will come out, but the bad part will also come out. And that's where purification comes in by with us learning. This is an institution that's helping us to grow. So to criticize and say devotees are all, well, the Shastra, if you read it, it's like if you follow it, you're supposed to be pure. But it takes purification. That's a process that goes through. That's why we have anattanivritti, getting rid of unwanted desires. So we're working through. This is a society to clean everybody up. As my Guru Maharaj says, it's a hospital. So that's the way we have to understand it. If you leave the hospital, you become even more infected. When you're in the hospital, you become cured after some time. Hare Krishna. Vishnu Ganappa, I know you raised your hand again. Hare Krishna. Please go ahead.
I'm just thinking of this in terms of ISKCON history. And at a certain point after Srila Prabhupada left, there were new gurus. And among those new gurus, there were a number that began to deviate from the practices of Krishna consciousness. Subtly it began, but then it became more obvious. And
were they disciples of I'm sorry, were they disciples of Srila Prabhupada?
Yes.
Okay, yes. You're talking about new gurus.
We're talking about, eons ago in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1980s. And so there used to be temple presidents meetings in North America and different places. So in North American temple presidents meetings, spontaneously in one of those temple presidents meetings, without it being officially on the agenda, the temple presidents, who were all at that time Srila Prabhupada's disciples, began discussing the difficulties having to deal with this new system. With, for example, at that time, all the Prabhupada disciples were required to attend the Guru Pujas of the new gurus in their zone. You follow?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if there was some question about their being able to do things, to follow and stuff like that. And there's so many other difficulties happened. So then during the temple president's meeting, spontaneous discussion came up about how it was, there's some difficulties and we want to talk about these difficulties. How can we address them? But then when it became known that this discussion had taken place, many people many identified the discussion itself as being caused by envy.
Oh boy!
You follow?
But that was not the aim, though.
Well, I mean, there might have been the aim for a couple of people, but ultimately, so what happened was Ravinda Svarupabu was at that meeting was deputed to write down these issues and present them to the GBC, and he did write it down, and then anyway, ultimately it was resolved in a positive direction, but it was tough because we're dealing with a system that there were some major problems with it after Srila Prabhupada left. And Srila Prabhupada even says in the 4th canto that when the Acharya leaves, there are going to be so many difficulties and etc. He said there's going to be chaos. He wasn't, I mean, he didn't specifically say himself, but that was the case in the Gaudiya Math as well. So anyway, that's why I was a little, when there are difficulties that need to be addressed sometimes, and no question, but at the same time, in a spirit of cooperation and concern, even when those making the observations might be identified as being envious. And I don't know the details of what's going on now. I have no idea. But so what is the remedy? The remedy is having more open discussions with devotees who have experience and do have the intent of the development and growth of ISKCON, and not with the intent of tearing it down or like that. But having discussion that used to be called Ishta Goshti. Having discussions about how to better improve our preaching, how to better improve our devotee care, and things like that.
Yeah, they're they're important, and I agree with you. The fact of the matter still remains that it's a society that's going to go through growing pains.
Yes,
Every society is going to go through growing pains. Details would come, but we are very fortunate that we have Shastra, we have Srila Prabhupada's own books, Srila Prabhupada's own lectures, Srila Prabhupada's own morning walks, where people could ask questions about anything, and he answered all of those. If we listen to those, there's so much we will pick from that, and therefore we can, in fact, help each other by citing situations that are similar, just like the way defense attorneys do, situations that are similar that came up, and Srila Prabhupada, how he handled it. And we learn from that, and then then that way we'll just go on safely. And in the society will be, keep getting protected by Lord Chaitanya.
There was a very big, I know it's taking time, but there was a very big conflict in ISKCON in 1976. And I don't know if, I'm sure that you've heard something about it. It's very interesting to study how Srila Prabhupada resolved the conflict. And if you have time, I can describe it because I was there. I knew how it was working, if you like. There was a conflict because the Radha Damodar party, which was distributing a huge amount of books and giving a huge amount of Lakshmi to the BBT, it was led by a couple of sannyasis. And then there was probably by that time, about 8 buses, big buses that were traveling throughout the United States. And there were others who were also emulating it, although they were not Radha Damodar. So there was a number of sannyasis traveling throughout the United States. And the tendency was for them to go to temples and preach at the temples that, well, the temple is really in Maya, people in the temple are in Maya. And if you really want to become advanced, you come with the sannyasis. And so what happened was, many of the brahmacharis started leaving the temples to travel with the sannyasis, not because of their strong preaching in that way. And so then the temple presidents became alarmed because they couldn't keep any devotees in the temples. As a result, you're familiar with this, perhaps.
Yeah, so anyway, I heard something about it. It's part of the growing pains.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal. and it was brought to Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur in 1976, and there was a discussion back and forth, and ultimately he heard both sides of the issue, the temple president's complaints and the position of the leaders of the Radha Damodar party, and ultimately he told the leader of the Radha Damodar party to give up leading and go to China.
Wow.
But
That
he
was
said,
yeah,
heavy. And but there was more to the story also. He said, you know, it's if we try to differentiate between brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyas too much, because nobody can really follow these things very carefully in this Kali Yuga. The main thing that's going to keep the Hare Krishna movement together, he said, Kirtaniya Sadahari, really emphasize the regular and constant chanting of the holy names of God. That's going to be
that's what it comes down to. Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing that cements and keeps the society together regularly, very intensely, chanting the holy names of Krishna again and again. Some kirtan, Hare Krishna.
Purity is very important in that sense, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for everybody's input, especially Vishnu. We learned a lot more history. When you talk about it, we learn from it. That's very important. Any final comments?
Thank you so much, Prabhu, for the wonderful pastime. As you were speaking of Radha Damodar party, I remember now, you know, what I read in the books, and without mentioning the name, I know exactly who was sent to China, but that was a very powerful one, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for coming. And we will continue as usual tomorrow. Please be here. Try to get here on time also. Vanchakapatarubhya kripa sindhya eva chapatitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.